Welcome to Conversations. Prime Minister Modi's speech on the Independence Day yesterday is being looked at in fine print now. The long speech, one of the longest ever for 90 odd minutes, has certain points that needs to be talked about. Prime Minister Modi said it's time for a secular civil code. Remember? The uniform civil code. And a one nation, one poll system. He said as we celebrate 75 years of the Constitution, Prime Minister Modi said we need to hold extensive debates on subject and discussions on this. And even the Supreme Court has advocated the change, for example, the Uniform Civil Code. Prime Minister Modi was very clear that the laws that divide our nation based on religion and foster discrimination, like the Waqf Act, have no place in the modern society. But he didn't say about the Waqf, but it was very clear what he was saying. Even the Uniform Civil Code is something very similar. This is arguably the first time ever that a Prime Minister spoke about Uniform Civil Code from the Red Fort. And it is very important because BJP doesn't have a majority of its own in the Lok Sabha. It depends on TDP and JD, who have a Muslim agenda with them too. But then Prime Minister Modi is very clear, come what may, he will implement this. In fact, if we frame the current scheme, everything is for the minority communities being allowed to have their own way of life, their personal laws, their communal ones. That's what the PM said. First time, Prime Minister Modi has showed the intent to take on the opposition, despite the reduced numbers that he has in the Lok Sabha right now. With 240 seats, he couldn't do much, he can't do much. But then he had 303 at one time, he could have done it. Anyway, the Prime Minister used his 11th Independence Day address, in fact, something that only Pandit Nehru has managed so far, to attack the opposition on a range of issues. From safety of women, which is obviously a reference to what happened in Kolkata, the brutal rape and murder of a doctor, to actually even the dynastic politics which he keeps talking of, which of course is aimed at the Akhilesh's, the Rahuls and the Stalins of the world. In fact, he said this entire dynastic politics and the efforts is creating anarchy in the country. At the same time, the Prime Minister did not forget to send a strong message to Bangladesh over the safety of Hindus. In fact, his Independence Day address from the ramparts of the Red Fort is also one of the longest that he had. As I said, it ran into almost 98 minutes. And of course, one has to admire him for that sheer energy that he brings to the table. He had his trademark Independence Day turban, which is sort of now looks very normal. And he didn't stick to the theme. He sought to stick to the theme of saying, we are a developed nation, we will do this, we will do that, we will work 24/7, we will make the third largest economy and all that. But beyond it, the Prime Minister had subtle things. He knows what's coming up, and that is what he wanted to tell the nation. Be it the Uniform Civil Code, and I think that is coming, and one nation, one poll. Nobody imagined the government could push through Article 370 in a short period of time, or even the Waqf Act. Of course, that has gone to the JPC, but still, it will get passed in the winter session of Parliament. He said that he is here to serve each one of us, every family and every region. Even though through 100% saturation of the schemes that the Modi government runs, especially with focus on Dalits, tribal women, youth and farmers, constituencies that the opposition is now targeting and trying to get a big part of the voter share. We saw that in UP, what happened there in terms of the caste equations. In fact, that is what Prime Minister is now seeking to address. In fact, his core constituency, he was addressing his core constituency also on SAM, because UCC is something that Hindus see as against them, but the Muslims see it as against them too. Amid expectation that the party would put the entire thing on the back burner after the post-election compulsion, Prime Minister Modi said, no, that's going to happen. And that's one. So, Uniform Civil Code is something that will come up in the next session of Parliament, that's for sure. Modi knows how to pull a kind of something of surprise every day. Of course, then there's one nation, one election. In fact, the frequent polls were creating obstacles in progress. There's a model code of conduct. Every time there's an election happening in this country. And that is, again, it defies the popular assumption that a reduced tally would actually force Modi to put his schemes on hold. No, he's not doing that. It's a make or break situation for him. He will go for it. And TDP and JDU don't have much of a choice. They might even abstain at the maximum. In fact, while advocating the changing of the election change, dynastic politics, casteism, Modi ji suggested something interesting. He said 1 lakh persons without any political links should join parties. Nobody in your family should be in the politics, even a distant one. And he said, we want to bring forth 1 lakh young people whose families have no political background, fresh blood. In fact, one such lakh people, when they come into panchayats, municipal corporation, district council, state assemblies, or even the Lok Sabha. Great concept. I mean, people will be brushing up their CVs now for those who want to make a mark in politics. Of course, he said, without even talking about the opposition, he said there was a section which did not appreciate the changes that the country was undergoing. So, be it the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the Mudra scheme, the farmer subsidy that was being given out, or even, for example, the other Jal Jeevan mission, major changes happening in the lives of common people. He said these opposition parties cannot think beyond their own welfare and do not care for the well-being of others. Such individuals with that distorted mindset, Prime Minister said, are a concern for this country. He in fact said the country must avoid these people who are kind of in despair all the time. Ki kya kare? They should attack the Prime Minister every day. That's the only strategy they have. In fact, Prime Minister Modi is very clear in his long speech that there will be no let-up on the government's core agenda. And that, I think, is a great thing, because a lot of people felt that he was not his aggressive self in the last 1 or 2 months. The CIA meeting, for example, or the other meetings which he was addressing. He was holding himself back. But he said, no, I will go, come what may. And the war against corruption is something, again, he talked about. He said he has waged this at a considerable personal cost. In fact, Prime Minister Modi, when he was talking about UCC, also invoked Supreme Court's judgment and exhortation so that there is a ground set for it, saying the courts wanted it, so I am doing it. So there is no choice but to do it. In fact, the current civil code resembles a communal civil code. In fact, we should not call it uniform civil code. It's actually uniform family code. Each religion is getting their own way of doing things. No common things is coming up. But there needs to be something for marriage, divorce, adoption, and all that. Even hereditary properties, getting hereditary share of properties. In fact, Prime Minister Modi said there will be no let-up in his government's core agenda. I think that should actually perk up the BJP supporters, because quite long, and even the right-wingers who are talking in social media saying, why is Modi ji not doing anything for Bangladesh? He should send the Indian army there. Well, we know what happened to Russia in Ukraine, or what happened to our IPKF in Sri Lanka. Let's not try all that. Let's act in a very mature way. True, there is a kind of genocide happening against Hindus, but there is a way of taking it out. Get hold of those leaders who are doing it, the Jamaat Islami. Get them before an international tribunal. Try them. That's what even the Israelis, Jews did post the Second World War. They did. They had tribunals. They had, all these guys convicted. Let's do it. That's what should be done. And that is where I think Prime Minister Modi was very, very positive in this entire thing. In fact, what he seeks to do, I think he's put it in the plate in front of the people, saying, here, UCC, one nation, one poll. I think that 2 things should be good enough, and he already has a waqf in the same plate. These 3 things for the next 1 year, maybe it's a calendar year or a financial year, he will do it. His government will do it. And that is the difference, I think, Prime Minister Modi's speech from last time to this time. Well, last time it was presenting a report card on the 10 years, and this time he is speaking about what he would do, or his party would do, or his government would do. And there will be nothing on the back burner according to him. And that's a great thing. It's a good message for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see where it goes from here, because it's kind of, early days for the Modi Sarkar. They didn't get 400 par, but then he is very clear where he would go and create a difference, because he knows that he cannot be a lame duck government. And that's a great thing. Not just for the stock markets, but for every Indian, every Bharatiya. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.